I secretly recorded my wife's phone call with her deceased ex-husband, and what I heard made me pack my bags and vanish with our daughter. My name is Mark, and for 10 years, I lived a life so perfectly constructed, I never once questioned the foundation of my happiness. At 40 years old, I had what every man dreams of, a beautiful, loving wife, Sarah, 38, a brilliant, kind-hearted teenage stepson, Jake, 16, and a bubbly 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who was the light of my life. Our home was filled with laughter, family dinners, and the comfortable chaos of a life well lived. Sarah was a dedicated stay-at-home mom, and I was a proud provider, a partner in a seemingly flawless partnership. The ghost in our marriage was John, Sarah's first husband and Jake's biological father. He was a tragic figure, a man killed in a car accident a year before Sarah and I met. She spoke of him rarely, and always with a gentle, melancholic respect. He was a good man, just lost, she'd say, sometimes when Jake would ask about him. She kept a small, tasteful memory box for Jake, a silver watch, a few photographs, his old college ring. It was a part of her past I respected, a closed chapter one never felt threatened by. Why would I? He was gone, and I was the man who had helped her rebuild. The first fissure in this perfect facade appeared on an unremarkable Tuesday afternoon. I was working from my home office, finalizing a quarterly report, when the doorbell rang. It was a courier with a registered letter for Sarah, signing for the thick, cream-colored envelope. I noticed the return address was from a law firm, Hartley & Associates, located in a city 3 hours away. A prickle of curiosity itched at me, but I dismissed it. Probably something to do with her late parents' estate, I thought. I left it prominently on the kitchen counter for her. When Sarah returned from grocery shopping with Lily, her cheerful demeanor evaporated the moment she saw the envelope. Her face, usually glowing with serene warmth, turned ashen. She stared at it as if it were a venomous snake. "What is this?" she asked, her voice unnaturally tight, her knuckles white as she gripped the shopping bag. "Came for you. Registered mail. Looks important," I said, trying to sound casual as I helped unpack the groceries. She didn't respond. She snatched the envelope as if burning her fingers, mumbled something about a possible audit on an old student loan account, and practically fled upstairs to our bedroom, leaving me standing in the kitchen with a carton of milk in my hand. The exchange was so bizarre, so out of character for my usually composed wife, that a seed of unease was planted deep in my gut. Over the next 3 weeks, that seed sprouted into a thorny vine of suspicion. Sarah became a different person. She was distant, preoccupied, jumping every time her phone buzzed. She started taking calls in the garden or whispering in the laundry room, always ending the conversations abruptly when I entered. Her eyes, once so clear and open, now held a guarded, almost furtive look. When I gently pressed her, asking if she was okay or if there was trouble with her family, she'd paint on a brittle smile. "It's just a PTA fundraiser. It's a nightmare this year." Or, "Mom's been having dizzy spells again. You know how she worries me." The excuses were plausible, but the panic in her eyes was not. The final, shattering blow came on a night I will never forget. I'd gone to bed early with a headache, leaving Sarah downstairs watching a movie. I fell into a fitful sleep, but was jolted awake hours later by the cold, empty space beside me. The digital clock read 2:17 a.m. The house was silent, but a faint, muffled sound came from the walk-in closet. I crept out of bed and moved silently toward the door, which was slightly ajar. It was Sarah's voice, choked with tears, whispering with a desperate intensity one had never heard before. "I don't know how much longer I can do this, John. He's getting suspicious. The letter. He saw the letter. I'm so scared." A cold dread, sharper than any ice, shot down my spine. John. The name echoed in the silent darkness, a name from a gravestone. It had to be a mistake. A different John. But then I heard the man's voice, low and calm, filtering faintly from the phone speaker. Just stay calm, Sarah. You're doing great. It's almost over. I miss you, she sobbed, the sound raw and painful. I miss you so much it hurts. Every single day. I know, my love. I know. Soon. I stood there, froze in the dark hallway, my world collapsing inward. The man she was mourning was alive, and my wife, the woman I had built a life with, was whispering endearments to him in the dead of night. The trust that had been the bedrock of my existence turned to dust in that moment. I didn't confront her. A strange, cold clarity descended upon me. If my reality was a lie, I needed irrefutable proof. The next day, after dropping Lily at school, I drove to a nondescript electronics store in a neighboring town and purchased a small, high-quality voice-activated recorder. The act felt sordid, a betrayal of my own morals, but I was adrift in a sea of deception, and this was my only lifeline to the truth. I planted the device under the living room sofa the following afternoon, under the pretext of having dropped my wedding ring. My heart pounded like a drum as I took Lily to the park for 2 hours, my mind racing with terrifying possibilities. When we returned, Sarah was on the phone in the kitchen, her back to us. I casually retrieved the recorder, my hands trembling so violently I almost dropped it. Locking myself in my home office, I plugged the device into my computer. The first 45 minutes contained nothing but the mundane sounds of our home, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant chatter of a TV show, Lily singing to herself. Then Sarah's voice, clear and startlingly close, filled my headphones. She was on the phone. He's gone. Okay, talk to me. What did the lawyer say? The man's voice, John's voice, was calm, smooth, and carried an air of authority that made my skin crawl. It's happening, Sarah. The final probate hearing is scheduled. The money will be transferred to the Cayman account by the end of the month. It's all there, every last cent. And the identity, the passport, is it solid? Sarah's voice was laced with a nervous energy. As solid as money can buy. You'll be free. We can finally be together like we always planned. A fresh start. No more hiding. I felt the oxygen leave my lungs. It was worse than I could have ever imagined. This wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. Sarah's voice broke. After all these years living this lie, pretending you were dead for Jake's inheritance, you said. That's what you told me. But it was always for this, wasn't it? For us. For the money. John's chuckle was devoid of warmth. My dear father would never have left his entire fortune to his grieving grandson if he thought his prodigal son was still alive and shacked up with his ex-wife. The tragic accident was a necessary business decision. And you, playing the heartbroken widow, then the stable, respectably remarried mother, it was perfect. You've played your part beautifully, my love. The words respectably remarried hit me like a physical blow. I was a prop, a placeholder. But Mark, Sarah's voice faltered, and Lily, she's so young. What about them? John's tone turned dismissive, cold. He's a chapter you needed to write, Sarah. A means to an end. He gave you stability, a cover story. As for Lily, she's a complication, but she's yours. We'll figure it out. The important thing is the money. Once it's transferred, you file for divorce. Cite irreconcilable differences. Make it clean, amicable. Then, 6 months later, you and Jake take a trip to Italy, and I'll just miraculously be there. A story of rediscovery. A second chance at love. The press will eat it up. I ripped the headphones off, my stomach churning. I was a chapter, a cover story. My love for Jake, the fatherly bond I'd nurtured for a decade, my devotion to Sarah and Lily, It was all a calculated part of their long con. The life I cherished was a stage, and I was the unwitting actor playing the fool. A rage, pure and incandescent, consumed me. But beneath the anger was a terror, so profound it turned my blood to ice. We'll figure out. What did that mean for my daughter? Was she disposable? A loose end to be tied up? In that moment, I knew I couldn't just leave. I had to disappear. The next few hours were a blur of controlled panic. I didn't pack sentimental items. I packed for survival. I took the recorder, my laptop, all our passports, every bit of cash from my safe, and my important documents. I went to Lily's school for an urgent dental appointment, early pickup. My sweet, trusting daughter chattered happily, completely unaware that her life was about to be upended. I drove not to our home, but to a large, anonymous shopping mall across town. In a restroom, I used a prepaid burner phone I bought days earlier, acting on a paranoid instinct I was now grateful for. I called my most discreet, ruthless friend from college, a man named David who worked in private security. David, it's Mark. I need help. I can't explain. I need to vanish, just for a few days. To his eternal credit, he asked no questions. Go to the Northern Star Motel off Interstate 90, about 2 hours east. Pay cash. Room 114 will be under the name Miller. I'll have a key waiting for you at the desk. Don't use your phone again. I followed his instructions. The motel was a dingy, anonymous place. Lily, confused but excited by the unexpected adventure, fell asleep watching cartoons on the grainy TV. I sat on the scratchy bedspread, the weight of my actions crashing down on me. I had just taken my daughter and run. In the eyes of the law, I was a kidnapper, but in my heart, I was a rescuer. The next morning, using a public library computer with David's guidance on secure browsing, I created a new, encrypted email account. I attached a 30-second clip from the recording, the most damning part where John discussed a fraud and called me a means to an end. I sent it to Sarah with a single, stark message. Asterisk, I know everything. About John, the fake death, the inheritance fraud, the entire lie. If you ever want to see Lily again, you'll confess everything in full to my lawyer. This recording is my insurance. If you or John try to find us, if you involve the police with a kidnapping story, the full audio file goes to the FBI, the IRS, and your father-in-law's old law firm. You will both spend the rest of your lives in prison. You have 24 hours to contact my attorney, whose details are below. Asterisk. It was a brutal, terrifying message to send. The response was a deluge of emails, a roller coaster of hysterical pleading, venomous threats, and desperate bargaining. She called me a monster, a kidnapper, a paranoid lunatic. She claimed John had powerful friends who were already tracking my phone, a fact that made me grateful for the burner. She said I was destroying our family. The irony was almost laughable. I hired Eleanor Vance, a shark of a divorce attorney known for handling high-stakes, contentious cases. I forwarded her the entire audio file. Her first words after listening were, "Mr. Smith, you are not the villain here. You are the victim of a profound criminal conspiracy. Let's go to war." Our strategy was aggressive. We would not return. I would establish residence in a new state. Eleanor contacted Sarah's lawyer, laying out our evidence in a carefully worded letter. Our demands were non-negotiable. Full legal and physical custody of Lily, a divorce on grounds of fraud, duress, and spousal misconduct, and a legally binding, sworn affidavit from Sarah detailing the entire conspiracy. In return, we would not, at that time, forward the evidence to federal authorities. The legal battle that ensued was a special kind of hell, fought in sealed courtrooms to protect the innocent, namely Jake and Lily. Sarah's legal team, funded by what I could only assume was John's mysterious resources, fought back with shocking, audacious story. They painted me as an unstable, jealous husband who had snapped upon discovering his wife's contact with an old friend who had, in fact, survived his accident but suffered from severe amnesia, only recently recovering his memory. They claimed my recording was a clever edit, a fabrication of a paranoid mind. It was a brilliant, desperate lie, but it couldn't withstand the cold, hard truth of the unedited audio. The calm, calculated discussion of offshore accounts, forged passports, and their contemptuous dismissal of my role in their lives was undeniable. The judge, a stern woman with no tolerance for deception, saw through the charade immediately. Faced with the prospect of a perjury charge and a subsequent criminal investigation that would expose their entire scheme, Sarah's team folded. She signed the affidavit. In a 10-page document, she confessed to knowing John was alive, to the plan to defraud his father's estate, and to using our marriage as a cover. It was a hollow victory, reading those words on paper. The confirmation of the lie was as painful as the initial discovery. As for John, the ghost proved to be a coward. The moment the legal tide turned irrevocably against him, he vanished. He abandoned Sarah, leaving her to face the consequences alone. His fortune, his new identity. He protected them, disappearing back into the shadows from which he came. The divorce was finalized swiftly. I was granted everything I asked for. Full custody of Lily, with Sarah receiving supervised visitation rights once a month, contingent on her continuing therapy. The court ruled that her participation in a long-term criminal conspiracy demonstrated a fundamental lack of judgment that made her an unfit primary guardian. The end and a new beginning. It's been 2 years now. Lily and I live in a small, sun-drenched cottage 1,000 miles from our old life. She's 9, a resilient, happy child who has adapted to our new reality with an ease that astounds me. She knows a simplified version of the truth. Mommy told some very big lies that hurt Daddy very much, so we live apart now. We have a golden retriever named Sunny, and we spend our weekends building sandcastles on the beach. The ghosts of the past are slowly fading. Sarah lives in a small apartment back in our old city. The monthly supervised visits with Lily are strained, a painful ritual for everyone involved. The money from the sale of our old house is all she has, as John's fortune vanished with him. She works as a receptionist, a far cry from the life of luxury she had been promised. Jake, now 18, was the greatest tragedy. When the truth came out, he was shattered. The father he had mourned was not only alive but criminal, and the mother he adored had been a willing participant. The betrayal broke him. He moved in with his maternal grandparents and, after a rocky period, has started to rebuild. He graduated high school and is working as an apprentice electrician. Our relationship is fragile, a delicate thread stretched across a chasm of pain, but we speak on the phone every few weeks. He calls me Mark, not Dad, but he knows I am the only stable father figure he has left. I started a small, independent consulting business, working remotely. It pays the bills and gives me the flexibility to be the father Lily needs. I still have the recording. It sits in a secure digital vault, a dark trophy from a war I never wanted to fight. It's my insurance, should John ever decide to reappear. One evening, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she looked at me with her big, serious eyes. "Daddy," she said, "are you still sad about Mommy?" I kissed her forehead. "Sometimes, sweetheart, but mostly, I'm just happy to be here with you." And I meant it. The anger has been replaced by a weary acceptance. I lost a wife, a stepson, and the life I knew, but I saved my daughter. I chose her, and in the quiet moments, watching the sunset over the ocean with Lily by my side, I know that every painful step, every terrible choice was worth it. The lie is over. Our truth, however difficult, is finally our own.